Hello and welcome to another edition of the Under Center podcast. I am your host, Daragh, and we are looking ahead to Wildcard Weekend, or I think nowadays it's actually called Super Wildcard Weekend. I'm delighted to be joined by Jake Woolhead, first of all. Jake, how are you?
Living the dream as always, Daragh. Thanks for asking.
First time I've seen you in 2023, so is it too late to say Happy New Year at this stage? Have we gone past that?
Nah, you can say that till the end of January, I'd say.
The end of January is the cut-off. That's okay. That's fair enough. I have to
For
make
me,
a note of
anyway.
that then. For you, every time I see it's going to be Happy New Year until the end of January. And we are also welcoming back today a former guest on the show. He was part of our AFI review of 2022. That is Joe Kinahan. Joe, welcome back, sir. How are you?
Grand. Yeah, thanks for having me on again, lads. Great to talk a bit of football and finally NFL this time. So
I was going to say it's a little bit of a different tact for you now, isn't it?
It is a bit, but I suppose being a fan of a team that's doing well is going to be a lot easier for me to talk about it. So
yeah, but see now,
as opposed to maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, the way it works in podcasting now, you only get views if your team is terrible. So, like, we should have got like terrible team supporters.
Oh.
We should have brought Reen and Fiona on for this, and Adam. Maybe it would have worked better. But we would have got the views for that. But no, we have to talk about how good our teams are. It's such a hard thing to do now today, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Awful.
Bad episode. Oh God.
Yeah, Joe, it's the first time speaking to you in 2023. Also, Happy New Year to you as well. How was the Christmas?
Happy New Year till the end of January. Yeah, Christmas was great. Yeah. I'd actually on that. If we're saying Happy New Year until the end of January, are we putting up our Christmas decorations in November? Is that how? Would I be right in saying? Are we along that line, or are we?
The cutoff for me is the 1st of December. That's decoration time. That's when Christmas FM goes on in the car. That's the whole lot.
Why do you even bother taking them down?
God,
just take the decorations off and just say it's a decorative tree for the house. That's all it is. No, or you can do that other trick. You know that other trick, if you wrap your tree in cling film, and then so it's always ready, and you don't have to make it up every year. That works fine too.
I got a new Christmas tree bag. I don't know if this is of interest to you, but the fucking thing is huge. You could fit a body in it. It's crazy how big it is.
Tell me you're in your 30s without telling me you're in your 30s.
Getting excited about blinds, Christmas tree bags, and the whole lot.
I have that to look forward to, boys, do I?
Oh, good. Oh, it's all in your future there, Joe. Don't worry about that. It's going to come quicker than you think. But we are not here to just talk about Christmas bag trees and blinds and stuff like that. Maybe if Jake wants to set up his own show for later in the week, he can for that. That's no problem.
New Blind Boy podcast.
I think you might come into some copyright issues there on that. But hey, look. We are going to look ahead to Super Wildcard Weekend. The playoffs are here. The final... I'm very quickly doing this in my head. The final 14 teams of the season are here. Nod of approval from Jake there. That means I got it right. Thank you. 6 games this weekend to go through. We're going to go through them. Look out for what parts of the game to look out for, who we think is going to win. The usual jargon that we all do. We'll try and keep it light and bubbly for this part as well. Before we do, make sure you're following us on our social channels at UnderCenterPod. On Twitter, the same on Instagram at UnderCenterPod. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. It's Under Center Podcast wherever you go on YouTube. Find us there. Subscribe. If you are watching this on YouTube right now, hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button as well. That's what we want to do. We want you to do because I'm sick of liking all my own videos. It's only one like on all of them. I'm only joking. There's 2. I get my mom to do it as well. But also we're a huge fan. Number 1. Also, if you're listening to us on the audio side of things, make sure you are subscribed on that too. You can get us anywhere you listen to your podcast. Under Center Podcast, exact same way you just search for us on YouTube, you'll find us there. And that's where you'll get all of the shows, including the one we had earlier on this week with Reen and Fionn, looking back at week 18 and the coaching firings that took place as well earlier on this week. So definitely a show to check out as well if you haven't already before today. But let's get straight into the games, and we will start with Saturday's games. And the first game on Saturday is the Seattle Seahawks traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers in this NFC West matchup. The 49ers have beaten the Seahawks twice already this season, in both very one-sided games. The Seahawks, of course, got in by the skin of their teeth with thanks to a Detroit Lions win in Lambeau against the Green Bay Packers. Joe, since you are a returning guest on the show, I'll let you go first on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of this game?
I mean, I think the main thing for this is how Geno is going to fare against that 49ers defense. You know, we've seen 2 games already from them this year, and that kind of explosiveness that we'd seen earlier in the year from the Seahawks has kind of faded off a bit. You're hoping that he can find something during this week, whether they've found something on tape that they like, or, you know, whether they get a player going. They need some sort of spark early on. I think if the Seahawks don't have 10 points by, say, midway through the second quarter, if they're not going into halftime with 2 touchdowns on the board, it's going to be very difficult for them to keep up with that 49ers offense. That's just been running over everybody with a third string quarterback. I think that's the thing we forget about as well. Like Brock Purdy, he's been playing well. You know, he's not been making too many mistakes, and he's a guy who, you know, he's Mr. Irrelevant. He's not supposed to be operating an NFL offense at this level, and he's got the team that arguably should be maybe favorites. It's them or the Eagles for the NFC, and like, I don't know how he's doing it. So they're going to have to find a way on offense to keep up with the 49ers, because I just don't see the defense stopping them at all.
Yeah, Jake, and on the 49ers, they are on a 10-game winning run at the moment as well, which is extraordinary. But I want to ask about this the 49ers defense that Joe alluded to, because at the start of the year, they were quite dominant and played very, very well. But the last few weeks, and I'm thinking back to, you know, they conceded points against the Commanders. Then the following week, of course, that mental game against the Raiders, conceding 32 points. Okay, you conceded 13 points against the Cardinals, playing probably even a 4th or a 5th string quarterback in that game. And, you know, they didn't care because they knew, obviously, Cliff Kingsbury was going to face the sack as well. But is there a few maybe slight concerns, you could say, with the 49ers defense? Maybe their dominance from the start of the season maybe is tailing off a little bit.
I don't know. I mean, there's always going to be a couple of them games where it's like just teams unexpectedly score a whole load of points, like you mentioned, the Raiders or the Commanders doing that. But again, this team is still a buzzsaw of a defense, like probably the best defense in the league right now, regardless of position or even outside of the postseason. Like they have Fred Warner, Hufanga, Boza on the line. Like, they're just incredible players. It's going to be hard to even stop them. So I wouldn't be worried about them. If I'm a 49ers fan, I'm not worried about them. What I would be worried about is, maybe you mentioned that Brock Purdy hasn't been giving the ball away too much, but I just don't want this game to be the game he starts giving the ball away too much, or that's where the regression for a Mr. Irrelevant QB comes in. Like, I mean, it's probably the biggest game of his life. Probably looking at nearly being cut in the off season because he's Mr. Irrelevant, to now starting a wild card game is like just the maddest thing he probably could have imagined. So I know that the Seahawks defense is pretty good, like with Quandre Diggs and all the lads there as well. So I mean, it's going to be a good game. I think if the 49ers have a quality defense, they need that offense to score points as much as the Seahawks need to score offensive points.
Yeah, and look, the 49ers defense have kept the Seahawks to 7 points in their first game in week 2, and then on the Thursday Night Football a couple of weeks ago, they only conceded 13 points as well. So they have had the Genos and the offensive numbers, and especially with the weakness in the interior offensive line of the Seahawks as well. It's something that you could see that Nick Bosa is probably and Eric Armstead as well are looking at that and licking their lips at the prospect of maybe getting at Geno a couple of times.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that happen, and maybe putting them under pressure and throwing some balls up in the air that the 49ers back end probably catch. But again, this is what I'm thinking. the NFL is an any given Sunday type league, as we always say, but this is the wildcard weekend. This is the any given Sundays or Saturday in this case. So you never know. Like Gino could be on Gino form, Gino fire, and could lead them to a win.
Yeah. Like I think
and Joe, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. I just like with this game, like I don't think Gino can go into this game and say, you know what, I'm gonna be conservative. I'm gonna be a game manager. I'm gonna take care of the football. I think this is a game where he really needs to realize, again, we need to be scoring points here. We can't afford to get behind on that scoreboard at all. And this is either like a 3 touchdown, 290-yard performance or a 3 interception performance, but he has to throw those balls out there. He kind of has to force things a bit this Saturday. I think this could be a big game for Metcalf on those 50-50 balls. But I think that, or if Kenneth Walker just goes off again for 150 yards, 180 yards, whether that'll happen against this 49ers defense, I don't know, but anything's possible with that guy in the backfield, I suppose.
And Daragh, let me ask you, because obviously this is your team playing the 49ers. How do you feel about them squeaking away into the wild card? I feel like we probably have much similar wavelengths as the Giants are in the same position. You get your worse off draft pick for being in the playoffs, or you just get to be in the playoffs and maybe you could squeak out another couple of more wins. How do you feel about it?
Look, it's the best of both worlds that we have at the moment, because we did make it to the playoffs. And we also have the number 5 pick in the draft this year because of the Broncos. At the start of the season, I thought that was going to be flipped. I thought we were going to get the number 5 pick because the Seahawks are going to be so awful, and we'd get a playoff team's draft pick because the Broncos are going to make it to the playoffs. So this is a free hit, and that's why I am a little more confident than I would be in a regular season game against the 49ers, because a team that has a free hit like that can be very dangerous. A team that basically has nothing to lose, because no one expects them to go any further than this. No one expects them to get to here. Everyone now is already writing down the Eagles and the 49ers as the NFC Championship game. And if the Seahawks can, put a spanner in those works, it's possible. We see, like, these are one of those games where these teams know each other so well. And the thing about the Seattle defense is, like you mentioned, Jake, it has been improving. Stopping that run is going to be important. They've struggled to stop the run all season. You can't let McCaffrey get going in that game at all. But then, like, if you stop McCaffrey but then you have Brock Purdy gets to throw to either Debo, Ayuk, George Kittle. There's so many options out there. And now with Jordan Brooks, their main linebacker, is down for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. The middle of that defense is not looking as strong as it could have been. On the opposite side of things, like, you guys have covered it very well in terms of what the Seahawks offense would need to do to win this game. And I mentioned the interior offensive line. The 2 guards, the center, have struggled in the second half of this season. Gino's efficiency has struggled because of that. Same with the running game has struggled. They can't run down the middle as much because they're basically getting beaten on their blocks. And defenders are able to stop the run. Can they hold on in this game, and can they give Gino that time to pick that pass to, like you mentioned, DK Metcalf, who's had a quiet few weeks, or can it be to Tyler Lockett, or can it be to one of the tight ends, whether that is Parkinson or Noah Fant? So that's the thing. It's all about the time. If Gino has the time to pick passes, there's a chance. But if that defensive line is dominating the line of scrimmage there against that Seahawks O-line, it could be a long day for Gino and that offense, and they won't get anywhere near the 49ers. But we spent a few minutes on this. I want to go quickly around you guys to get your predictions for this game. Who do you think is going through to the next round of the playoffs? I'll start with you, Jake.
I'm afraid, Daragh, I'm going to have to go with the Niners.
Yeah, I'll be joining you there as well, I think. I mean, I don't think it's a blowout. I think it's 7 to 10 points, but I think it's 49ers win for sure, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to go to Seahawks. I'm more over my heart than my head, but, anything can happen. Anything can happen. I have a few surprises up my sleeve for my predictions this week that could happen. Either they'll all happen or none of them will happen. It's one of those.
You better not
And
be
I'm so
picking the
far
Giants
behind I'm so far behind in the prediction contest that I actually need to start putting some strange ones out there and hope they come true so I have a chance to come back. But that's the 49ers and the Seahawks. We'll move on to the late game on Saturday. That is the Los Angeles Chargers, the 5th seed, taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the winners of the AFC South after beating the Titans last Saturday. They are, of course, the 4 seed. Quite a interesting game, kind of a runner for game of the week now for me in this. I think two sides that like to play offense very well, and at times their defenses can be quite suspect. So I think we could be in for a very, very entertaining game here. Jake, I'll start with you on this. What are you looking for in this game?
The first thing I'm noticing in this game is the ridiculousness of playing your starters in a meaningless game for the Chargers, and we see Mike Williams go down with that back injury, had to be carted off. That was just so pointless, and now they could be facing the Jaguars team with a pretty decent defense, and they're going to be missing one of their top pass catchers, and I can't remember, there's another guy, somebody else went out as well, but I think he's more than likely going to play. I mean, you still have Allen and Eckler that are still going to catch a ball and run, so not to be sniffed at, and you still have Justin Herbert, so still good, but I just couldn't get over the ridiculousness of playing quality guys in a meaningless game. That's why the Giants held them all out. Look, we're all better off for it.
Yeah. And Joe, just before I get your view on this game, I mentioned about the Jaguars defense, who at times can not play ball as well. But a stat that I came across actually that I should have mentioned at the start, that the Jaguars are actually tied 4th in the NFL with 27 takeaways this year. So they are a defense that like to take the ball away from the quarterback. And is this a sort of a trap game for Herbert?
It definitely can be. I mean, in fairness to Herbert, he's done a lot better taking care of the football this year than compared to last year. So I think he's kind of cleaned up that aspect of his game a bit. There was another stat I actually came across on the opposite side of the ball. Jaguars, obviously Travis Etienne has been fantastic this year. Very underrated part of their offense. And Jaguars are the Chargers 32nd in run defense. So I think we're looking at this game. It definitely could be a trap game. I think everybody's kind of saying, Justin Herbert, the star QB, kind of outshone Burrow and Tua in 2020 in his rookie year when he was picked behind both of them. And everybody's saying the Chargers year. The Jaguars could. I'm not saying they will necessarily, but they could surprise the Chargers now. I wouldn't want to be a Chargers fan for sure and go into this game thinking, yeah, we're locked into the divisional round now, because it could be tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely not a walkabout for the Chargers against like that Jaguars defense, as you said, Daragh good in the old takeaways there. So, if I'm not wrong, Eckler's a bit of a fumbler himself. I can't remember, he has a few fumbles on the year or not. But
it was DeAndre Carter last week that gave up a fumble. Yeah, Simmons punched it out. It is interesting though, because this is not something that we get an awful lot in the NFL playoffs as well. But both quarterbacks, this is their first playoff game as well. So could that tie into it and a little bit, the nerves of playing your first playoff game in the NFL?
I think there's a little bit more pressure on Trevor Lawrence, just the first overall pick and stuff like that. Now, he has been playing great, so I'm kind of seeing maybe a shades of Cincinnati Bengals getting to the Super Bowl, starting off in the playoffs, kind of vibe off that team now. Whether or not they get that far, that's a whole different story, but it does kind of feel that way for me.
Yeah, they're a team that could definitely make a run. I actually kind of feel the opposite with the pressure, though. Like, the Jaguars came into this season, I don't think, anyway, expecting to make playoffs. They were probably expecting, first year head coach. We were, number one overall last year as well.
Yeah.
In the 2022 draft.
Yeah.
And, they're probably just saying, let's just get in and let's get a 6-10 or 6-11 season, maybe 7-10 season out of the way. and let's build something. And all of a sudden they're in the playoffs. I don't think there's any pressure. I think this is right, lads, we're here. Let's just wing it. The Chargers have had this win playoffs or bust kind of story put on them for the last 4 or 5 years. And, Herbert's here now, but if they, bow out in the first round of the playoffs, all of a sudden there's going to be questions on Staley. There might be questions on Herbert, depending on how he does in this game. I think there's massive pressure on the Chargers to come out with a win here. And I suppose we'll see whether they're able to, come through on the occasion or whether they fold to it.
Yeah, I agree with you there, because they are a lot of people sort of cool picks to win the Super Bowl each year, the Chargers, because they seem to always build these very, very nice rosters. You think they have everything in place, and then for one reason or another, they bottle it. That's exactly what they do. They bottle it, and that's why I asked if this was a trap game, because of the Chargers' histories of bottling things. Like even last season, and I know we mentioned that, like the pressure on, but last season they bottle it in the final game of the regular season, lose to the Raiders, and they don't make the playoffs. This year, everything is set up for them. They're in the playoffs now. Herbert's first playoff game is a fantastic season. Everyone's getting fit now again. They have Joey Bosa back as well. You think it's all set up there, and then like that, the Jaguars can come here and making the playoffs for the first time since 2017. Of course, when they were famously called Saxonville, the worst name in the NFL ever. But they can go there. They have to travel to their spot and punch them in the mouth, and then they're just looking there shocked because that's it. They've missed another window to sort of go on a run.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel that way about that team though. I just think they're kind of better, but I don't know. It's a tough call, honestly. It's a toss-up game for me. This one between getting Bosa back, as you said, they have Derwin James in the backfield, Asante Samuel Jr. That's a pretty good defense when it plays well. And I mean, the Jags aren't a titan in offense themselves. So I mean, this just gets interesting. Like both teams have decent offenses, and have good off defenses that can play to a higher level than they have.
Yeah. Well, let's go on and let's find out everyone's predictions. Joe, I'll start with you on this one. Jaguars or Chargers?
It's really a toss-up for me. I could flip a coin either way. I think because of how I think they won't be under too much pressure, and because they have a coach who has had that playoff experience and he's won a Super Bowl. I think I'm going with the Jags.
Yeah, I've been bigging up
I feel in it.
Yeah, I've been bigging up the Chargers here the last couple of minutes, but I think I'm gonna go with the Jags as well. I literally just checked the handicap there, and the Chargers are favorite by 2 points, so it is almost a toss-up.
Right. Okay. Someone's got to go with the Chargers on this one, so I'm going to go with the Chargers to win this game. I've been doubting them for the last 5-10 minutes that we've talked, and I'm saying I'm going for them. So they better not let me down. I bet they better not let me down at all, or else I'll be pushing for the Brandon Staley out brigade there for the rest of the off season on this show, for sure. But okay, perfect. We will move on then to Sunday's games. And the first game on Sunday is the Miami Dolphins traveling to Orchard Park to take on the Buffalo Bills. Because Buffalo Bills missed out on the 1 seed in the AFC. So they will have to take on the 7 seed, which is, of course, the Miami Dolphins, who snuck through. I talked about the Seahawks getting through by the skin of their teeth. The skin of their teeth is probably not a good enough definition for what the Dolphins managed to do to get into the playoffs last weekend. What was it, 9-6 in the end against the against the Jets?
10-6.
9. I think it was just 3 field goals there. So yeah, 9-6 against the Jets. Unbelievable that that was able to happen.
11-6.
11-6 was it?
Yeah, there was a safety, I think.
Oh, because they were doing
the
whole pitchy whatever, yeah, when they were pushing to try and win the game.
Acting the bollocks, that's what they were doing.
yeah. Okay. To it. Tungo Vailoa is out of this game. He will not be playing. So that means it looks like it's going to be Skylar Thompson again. Guys, I don't know if there is a point in spending too much time on this. Like, there can't be any other choice but to go for the Bills in this game, surely.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, another rookie quarterback who was not expected to play is now all of a sudden thrust into a wildcard weekend role. That's just fucking insane. Two explosive offenses when both starting quarterbacks are playing. So now we're talking about one quality offense and a question mark on the other side of the field on that offense. It's last I checked, it was a 13-point difference, which is quite high for a playoff game. The only thing I can think of, and basically all I have on this game, is the Dolphins love to blitz, and maybe if they can get home on a few of these blitzes and cause a bit of pressure, maybe get a few defense takeaways, that's where that game changes. Can I see it? No, but that's all I got in the Dolphins side.
Well, Joe, before I get your view on it, I want to ask, because I'll try and play devil's advocate here and try and come up with a way that the Dolphins can do something, but the Bills defense, and especially that defensive line's production, has gone down since Von Miller's injury. And if the Miami Dolphins offensive line especially can give Skylar Thompson the opportunity to pick a pass, he has shown, especially with Tua and Waddle there, that they can work up a scheme to get him to pass the ball to them and basically rack up the yak yards, and maybe that gives them a chance.
I mean, maybe. I also have a chance. Of
Big maybe.
2001 ACA this weekend. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I mean, in fairness, I'll like, it'd have to be a load of screen passes. It'd have to be a lot of short stuff underneath that Bills defense. I don't think you're going to see Skylar Thompson bombing balls down the field. I just don't see how the run game gets going when you know that, okay, this guy doesn't have the arm. We can bite down a bit more in the run. I know you're trying to play devil's advocate, but
some of us have to be realists here.
So, I just
trying to be the good host, Jake. That's all.
Exceptionally good, Daragh, I'd say.
He's too nice. I think this one has Bills written all over it. It's at Highmark Stadium. That crowd is going to be wild. They're still going to be, riding off the emotion of Damar Hamlin. They're going to be screaming. There's probably going to be 3 kick return touchdowns this weekend.
Oh, I'm going to put that bet on.
There's your 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just with that stadium, with that crowd, and the way the Bills are rolling at the moment, even if their defense has, again, like you said, kind of slowed down a bit without the likes of Von Miller. I think Jordan Poyer was activated off the injury reserve this week, so maybe that's another help in the defensive backfield for them. So I think it has to be the Bills for me anyway.
Yeah,
not to spoil the pick, but.
Yeah.
Jumping the gun, Joe. Like, I didn't actually ask for the pick yet, but thanks for that. Yeah, like, listen, we won't spend much more time on this. You guys have covered it very well. The matchup that we could see, which could be a very tasty matchup actually, is going to be Xavier Howard and Stephon Diggs. Now, the Dolphins did beat the Bills earlier on this season. Of course, that was in Miami, and then of course the Bills promptly returned the favor in the game on a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember which week it was exactly off the top of my head, but again, I go back to the Seahawks and 49ers games. These are in division games. These teams know each other so well. I don't know. Like I said, I'm trying to hype this game up as much as I can because it's the only early game that we have on this side of the Atlantic as well, being at 6 p.m. on Sunday.
Let's call it for what it is, Daragh. Trap game.
Trap game. There we go. It is a trap game. Well,
I mean, if
there
the
actually
Bills
is a-
lose,
there
This
could
is
be
the
a
Skylar
Gator
Thompson
trap game
breakout game, guys.
later. Yeah, it could be the Skylar Thompson breakout game. There we go. That could be it. But as well, off the pitch, away from the pitch, and Joe, you mentioned it there a bit earlier. Of course, with Damar Hamlin, he was released from hospital today on the time recording on Wednesday, which was fantastic to hear. Do we see him in a director's box or something at the game on Sunday? Do you think he'd get clearance from the hospital to go and even watch it?
I don't know. I don't see that happening this early. Maybe when they get through to the next week, that's when they'll go. But I can't see it so soon after coming out of hospital.
I can see the NFL getting him in to do the coin toss.
Oh.
Well, you'd have to stay for the game then, surely, if that's the case.
Yeah, he would have to go back to the house.
Get out.
Just don't put him in.
Get out.
For the love of God.
Yeah, that could be it. But yeah, no, if he can make it to the game, that would be absolutely fantastic to see. But predictions very quickly. Everyone going Bills?
I mean, we don't even need to ask the question.
Yeah.
I
Fun fact as well,
Daragh,
since 2010, double-digit favorites against the spread are 11-3. So
there's a chance.
I mean, so you're saying there's a chance, yeah.
Now, is that to lose the game or just to not cover the spread though?
I believe that's to cover the spread.
Oh, well then look, they can still win by 9 and it's still be a bit of a blowout, so it'll be fine. We'll move on to the 9:30 game on Sunday evening. That is Jake's New York Giants traveling to Minnesota to take on the Vikings again. After, of course, the Vikings won their matchup in Jake. What week was it?
Oh, I don't know what week it was, 10 or 11, something like that. It doesn't matter. It's all in the past now.
Yeah, it was closer than that, I think, wasn't it?
Was it? I don't know. When they lose, I just blank it out.
16, week 16,
was
15
it?
or something like that.
Yeah, might be
it's
losing
only a month ago, I think.
Jake, you're the Giants
That was
fan.
some game,
every
though.
result of every game ever.
Oh, it was Christmas Eve. So that was 2 weeks ago.
So yeah, it was week 16. Well, look, Christmas
is a
is
whole year ago.
I did a lot of drinking between that game and now, so like there's a few brain cells that are missing since then.
So like I said, it is a matchup. The Giants rested their starters last week and they lost to the Eagles, so we should see the likes of Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley back for this game. Jake, listen, talk to me. Tell me. Tell me how the Giants win this game.
Well, we'll give you a little bit of backstory here on the old first matchup 6 weeks ago that we said it was happened. Yeah, not 2 weeks ago or anything. But that game, the Giants had been missing their number one corner, their number one safety. I think 2 out of 5 linemen were backups, and the hodgepodge wide receiver core that is led by a Bills practice squad player at the minute. So that's just there was a whole lot of Giants mistakes with fumbles and stuff like that happened in the game. And yet we only lost on a 61-yard field goal at the last minute. So as much as I could be confident going into a game, this would be as much as it is for a Giants game this season, which is pretty good for me, I think. We have the number one cornerback, we have the safety back, and all our linemen are healthy, I believe. So pretty good looking for me. The one I'm looking forward to most is I'm not sure if the Giants center is playing. And I don't know if you heard about a little dude named Dexter Lawrence, who's almost as good as an interior D lineman as Daragh is.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to just recognize that. So it'd be interesting to see because
checks in the mail.
It'd be interesting to see because they were playing their backup center, who is now torn ACL, or he's out for the rest of the season anyway. So if that whatever the center's name is that they have played, if he can't play, it'd be a third string center on Dexter Lawrence, and that's just not a good matchup for the Vikings. And Thibodeau has been playing pretty good the past few games. So Kirk Cousins prime time, Thibodeau in prime time, that's a good matchup for me. That's just a good matchup on the Giants defensive side. You want to go?
No, I was just going to say he's going to be going up against Christian Daragh. It's probably been one of, if not the best left tackle in the whole league this year.
He could go the other side. I don't know. You never know. But he's a pretty good
jump
player,
around.
is all I'll say. He's a
jump
pretty
around.
good player, you know. The Giants' D-line is probably the strongest unit on the Giants, so it'd be a good matchup, I think. On the other side, the Giants' defense have to contend with Hawkinson and Jefferson, who both had huge games last time. But as I said, we were missing our number one corner and our number one safety, so at least I'll get a little bit of hope in this one, which I haven't had in the past 10 or 12 years.
It's the hope that kills you, Jake.
Yeah, I know. I foresee a lot of drinking after this weekend, depending on how it goes.
Joe, on the Vikings side of things, of course, they finished 13-4, winning the AFC North. But a trend that we've seen with the Giants or the Vikings offense, I should say, is that they are quite streaky. They will have periods where they look unstoppable in games, but then for other large chunks of it, they'll go on, say, three and outs in a row where they just can't get anything going. And that's the time where if the Giants want to win this game, they're going to have to capitalize.
Yeah. Again, it just comes down to the Vikings. I think if the Vikings can just keep consistent, and even if it's, a couple of field goals, I mean, like if you can get those 3 points, take them. Don't be risking it on 4th and 2, kind of near the 40-yard. Just take your points. If you need to punt it at the halfway line, that's grand. Pin the Giants deep. The Giants, as much as I have been impressed with Daniel Jones this year, the Giants aren't really a team that'll go on these big 90-yard drives. If you can pin them back, if you're punting from your own 45, that's fine, because they're going to be taking drives from inside their 10, inside their own 15. I don't think they're that explosive of a team to go on and constantly go on these big long drives and keep getting points out of them. So I think that's the key there, is just to manage the game. Take your field goals, run the clock. Dalvin Cook's there for a reason. Alexander Madison's there for a reason. I do think on the Giants side of things, there's definitely an area to exploit there. Like, obviously I said, Daniel Jones has been great this year. Even though Richie James has been dropping every pass thrown to him, it seems, over the last month. The Vikings pass defense, I think, is like 3rd or 2nd worst in the league.
Yeah, it is.
And so, like, that's a huge advantage there for the Giants. Even, you don't have the likes of Justin Jefferson out there running routes, but you have guys that can run out there and run a slant and, run a quick hitch and pick up 5 yards, 6 yards every time. And Daniel Jones has gotten better at throwing those balls on time. So I don't think you're as worried about a Vikings pass rush as Kirk Cousins is going to be about the Giants, because Thibodeau, obviously, Azeez Ojulari, I think, has been an unsung hero in many ways.
Yeah.
I think this is another contender for game of the week, even though both teams arguably have limped into this playoffs. I think it's going to be a really good game.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Like, you have some good points there. Like, the Giants really need to game plan around the Vikings defensive line, because our rookie right tackle Evan Neal has been struggling, and he struggled mightily against Smith and Danielle Hunter. Yeah. Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter in the last game. He just struggled with it. I think he had 8 or 9 pressures or something and 1 sack allowed. So they have to sort something out with him, have to have a game plan for chipping whoever's on his side or something like that. So it'll be an interesting one there. Anyway, I think you're right. I think it could be the most interesting, because I think they are quite evenly matched in this game, as opposed to, like, obviously that Bills game's not a match, but I think they're quite evenly matched. It could be an interesting one, a close game. I'll give you one stat I read there, though. The Vikings this season are 11-0 in 1-score games.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's not sustainable either, as well, because that's going to stop on one stage.
But I think the Giants were 8-2 or something like that in 1-score games. I mean, it's crazy how much, like, the 1-score game thing can go. So it really just skews it. I mean, if you turn those upside down, the Vikings would be 0-11 in 1-score games, and they wouldn't be nowhere near the playoffs.
All right. Well, let's get predictions on this. Jake, I'll start with you first.
I'm gonna
go with your Giants.
I'm going with the Giants.
Joe,
you're going with the Giants. That's crazy. I might take the Giants. I don't know. Yeah, go on. I'll take the Giants. Let's back the boy. Let's back Daniel Jones. He won't slip like he did in that one game. I think he'll do it. I think he'll do it.
I think we're going full circle here because I'm actually going to go with the Giants as well on this game. I like it. I like the matchup. They showed in the first game that they can hang with the Vikings, and they would have learned a lot from that game too. I love the emergence as well of Isaiah Hodgins on that offense for the Giants. He's played really well.
He came in just before that trade deadline and now leads the team in touchdowns and is like second in receiving yards.
Yeah, he's played very well, and like you mentioned, if they are one of the worst, pass defenses in the league too. We didn't give a whole lot of mention as well to probably their biggest weapon on offense, and that of course is Saquon Barkley, who is there too, who's always going to command a lot of attention. So if they are loading the box to stop the run, if you have one-on-ones on the outside there, the likes of Hodgins and Sterling have proved that they can beat their defenders. So, look, there's a huge chance there, and let's keep this going. Let's keep this whole Giants thing going. Just make sure, Jake, and this is your homework now for Sunday. Do not let them send any pictures of themselves on a yacht, please.
No, I made sure of it this season. I told the lads, just be careful. No yacht pictures. They did go out and spend $40,000 in a nightclub in New York, but they didn't take any yacht pictures, so I'm okay with that.
Wasn't a nightclub on
They just haven't posted them yet.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe they're waiting until they win the Super Bowl. Daragh, on a side note, I'm looking forward to the Giants Seahawks NFC Championship game.
Oh, I can't wait. Should we try to get press passes for it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We couldn't get the Super Bowl ones. We'll get the NFC Championship ones instead.
Yeah, they'll definitely give it to us.
Let's move on to the Sunday Night Football. And Joe, that is your Cincinnati Bengals entertaining the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson is, quote, facing an uphill battle to be ready for this game.
Sorry, just to interrupt you there. I just seen a tweet come in there that he has missed practice for today. Sorry, this day.
He's missed practice today.
So again, uphill.
Uphill. So if Tyler Huntley is ready, if he is fit, it'll be him. If not, it'll be, who was it last week? Michael Brown, was that who it was?
I think
Anthony Brown Jr.
Yeah,
Anthony Brown.
They elevated him. Yeah, just to get, because I think Tyler can play, or Huntley can play. They just didn't want to throw him out because I think he has tendonitis in his throwing arm. I seen a tweet that he hadn't thrown today in the media section of the practice, so I think he will play.
Was Mark Andrews injured last week, or did they rest him?
I don't know. I think they rested him, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I think he was rested again with the thing about the void game, the Bengals Bills, and having wrapped up the North already. I think they just kind of said, listen, there's no point in throwing you out and getting hurt. They did a not Chargers on it.
Yeah,
they actually rested their
They did what the Chargers should have done.
Yep.
But like I said, the Bengals are the 4th seed after winning the AFC North. The Ravens are the 5th seed in this game. Like that, with the quarterback issues on the Ravens, and then of course the Bengals, just getting hot in the second half of this season. A potential stumbling block for them, of course, is Alex Kaplan not being around for the rest of the season. But Joe, I'll start you on this one. What are your thoughts ahead of this game, especially when you face a team again a week after already beating them and beating them quite convincingly? Do you worry that there might be a bit of a resting on the laurels a little bit with the team?
I don't think so, because I think so fresh off of losing a Super Bowl that was so close, I think that team wants to get back as soon as possible. I don't think there's any sort of, we'll get through them and it'll be the Bills next week. I think it's no, we need to make sure that we put these away, because they beat us earlier in the season. I know it was Lamar that was out there, but it's still the same team. Tyler Huntley isn't Lamar Jackson, but he's all right. He's shown some things in some games. I think what needs to be kind of, again, you said that we were 8-0 coming into, or eight games straight. I think we have the hardest strength of schedule of the remaining teams in the playoffs, I think. I don't see how the Ravens, especially after last week, I don't see how the Ravens can kind of put themselves up to a challenge like how the Bengals have been the last few weeks. Like, this was supposed to be the hardest part of the schedule. Running the gauntlet through all these teams. I know the Bucs weren't what they were last year, and I know we weren't I don't want to say we fell off, but we kind of slowed down a bit in that middle, kind of around win 5, win 6 in that streak. But when you're looking across the sideline, it's a team that's what are we, 11-4 or 12-4, sorry, and again, 8 straight division champions, and they've got all their starters healthy. I know the offensive line is beat up a bit, and I suppose that's their one place that the Ravens can try and exploit. Because again, Lyle Collins gone from a couple of weeks ago, and Cap has gone now. It's the same offensive line basically that got Burrow sacked 9 times against the Titans last year, and I think 8 times in another game, and I think he was hit like 30 or 40 times in that playoff run. Burrow was hit last year. Like, it's that offensive line, and I think that's where the Ravens will say, this is the only way we're going to win this game, is if we hammer them. I don't, again, through my orange tinted glasses, I don't see that happening, but I suppose it is a vague possibility. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
The one thing that I did notice from the game last Sunday was, and you did mention about the offensive line, is that the Ravens did have success at getting at Burrow. Now, he did play very well in eluding the pressure a lot of times too, but we can't say for certain that's going to happen again this week. And if they can get at Burrow and they can, get him down on the ground, it will make things interesting. Now, I want to actually ask about the running game, because I don't know if it's just myself noticing it. Maybe I'm way off and just seeing the limited amount of Bengals football that I'm seeing. But has the run game sort of faltered a little bit, or been, stumbled just a little bit this season? It's not as prominent maybe as it has been.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that kind of comes into the type of offense that we've run. The first few weeks, it was that kind of zone run, and you kind of saw Mixon, break a few chunk plays, and obviously P. Ryan has come through, especially earlier in the season. He was great. I think once we hit that Saints game, it just changed. Different blocking schemes with more sort of power stuff, and that kind of has a high variance as to, you're either going to break a run or you're going to get 1-2 yards every time, and that's it. I suppose the Bengals play, we run the ball in order to pass it. So I suppose it's not as much of, it's not as much of a priority, I suppose, for Zach Taylor to be hounding at these guys. We need 4 yards every time, 4 yards every time, 4 yards every time. It's like, no, if we can get one play where we just get 2 yards, and then it's 2nd and 8, and then it's 2 pass plays. Like, I think that responsibility is put on Burrow now. So the likes of Mixon and P. Ryan and the offensive line don't have to be worried so much about pushing, a 7-man box back the whole way to clear the way. It's like just get enough so that we're not behind the chains for our next 2 pass plays. So maybe that's why the run game is slowed down. Obviously, it feels a bit weird paying Mixon all that money and then him not having this massive season. But again, I suppose it's paved the way for the likes of P. Ryan, who's shown something, and I suppose he'll get paid, whether it's by us or someone else in the offseason. But I don't think it's too much of a worry when you have guys like Burrow and Boyd and Higgins and Chase that'll go out there and catch a ball and jet sweeps as well. So
yeah, and the emergence as well of Trent Irvin as well these past few weeks too. popping up in
Yeah.
in the end zone, ruining my anytime touchdown score, bets because he passes in it to him and not Tyler Boyd. So, yeah, great for him, not great for my pocket at the moment.
And you see, the thing is, right? You'll back Irvin this week, and he might get 2 catches. That's the
It'll
thing.
be Hayden Hurst's week this week.
Yeah. It's always the way it goes. It's never your Higgins or your Boyd. It's always the guy you don't expect to play.
Exactly. Jake, haven't asked you on this game yet, but is there anything you're looking out for out of this week?
I thought you had forgotten about me there, but yeah, the one thing I'd be looking forward to, and we kind of touched on it there, is the lads on the offense for the Bengals going against that Ravens secondary, who I think they're one of the worst pass defenses in the league this season. So I'd be interested to see how that goes. I'm a big fan of T. Higgins, and I like Jamar Chase, and I like Tyler Boyd. I just think that's a 3-headed dragon right there. So if Lamar is playing this game, I'm feeling a little bit different. The game's obviously more even, but I just think the lads on the wide receivers for the Bengals can really outrun this game, and just it won't even matter if Joe Mixon is in there now.
Yeah, well, like that's and with this Ravens, especially the linebacking situation with the Ravens, especially with Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith with his new $100 million contract too, the Bengals could find it tough to run. So maybe it will fall in the hands of the 3 guys there, and Trent Irvin and Hayden Hurst as well. But we'll get predictions for this game. Joe, you are the Bengals fan, so we'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm obviously going Bengals, but like I think you kind of touched on it as well. Actually, now that I think about it, the Roquan Smith contract, that probably makes it less likely for Lamar to play. Like, he's been trying to get a contract all season, and you've seen how bad this Ravens team is without him, and then they go and pay a linebacker. Like, I'm all for everybody getting paid, and linebackers making money. That's great. Obviously, Roquan Smith a great player, but you've been trying to get this guy down for a contract for the whole offseason, last off season, whole of training camp, all of this year, and then the first contract you give out is to a linebacker. I think that might make Lamar done. And even if he turns out to be healthy this weekend, I think he might just say, you know what, lads, you can go at it your own. So I have the Bengals to win this game handily.
Yeah. Well, looking at it from the team's perspective, in the last 2 years, he's had 2 serious enough knee injuries to miss multiple games, and for a guy whose big part of his game is running with the football, you got to look at that and say, well, look, he's only missed a couple of games these ones. What about the next one where he's out for a year? So I think that obviously comes into their thoughts when they're offering the money that they're offering. And obviously we heard about the deal they offered at the start of the year. What was it? Something like $40 million a year or something like that. They were offering him $300 million contract or something. But there wasn't a lot of guaranteed money, or not as much as he wanted in the guaranteed money stakes. And look, that obviously goes down to the Deshaun Watson contract and that being fully guaranteed, which has turned a lot of deals in a way that is not pleasing a lot of owners at the moment and a lot of GMs in the league. But we'll see. It's going to be one of the biggest off-season stories for sure. In an off-season where I think it's primed to be one of the craziest ones we've ever seen. I know last year with the big trades of Russ and everything like that were absolutely massive, but we're already hearing about Hopkins wanting to leave and them trading him. And, there could be a lot of big trades and there could be a lot of big contracts given out in free agency. And look, this is going to be the place to be to hear all about it at the Under Center podcast and to get the best reactions for it as well. But let's move on to the final game of a Wildcard Weekend, which conveniently enough takes place on Monday night when the weekend's over. That is the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. Of course, the Buccaneers winning the NFC South with an 8-9 record. A losing record wins a division. I thought those days were over, but clearly not. And then the Dallas Cowboys, who have a 12-5 record, could only make it in as the 5th seed. One of the worst things about football and punditry and stuff like that is you look at the most recent performances and that sort of sways opinion. And the Cowboys flat up sucked last week against the Commanders. They were awful. Whereas the Buccaneers have been awful for most of the year, but they've turned it on there in the last couple of weeks. Okay, it didn't mean anything last week against the Falcons when they lost that game. But, you know, did the Cowboys, and Jake, obviously you're the NFC East expert in the group here, but did the Cowboys peak too soon?
No, the Cowboys have been terrible all season long, if you ask me. But that's just a NFC beast take there. I'll give you though, Prescott is leading the NFL in interceptions, even though he's missed four games this season, 5 games this season. So it's not been a great year for him. And then even though I think both defenses, Bucks and Cowboys defense, have started off strong enough, but I think in the last 5 or 6 games they're giving up almost 30 points per game on average. So I think 27, 28 points per game each. So I think that's down. They started off the year about 17 or 18 points per game. So obviously that's going to make things a lot harder in this game for them.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Prescott and leading interceptions. Like, he's always been a guy where it's, oh yeah, he's calculated and you know, he processes defense as well. You know, maybe not the strongest arm, and, you know, maybe not the most accurate, but certainly a smart quarterback. And then leading the league in picks is, again, especially after you're saying 4 or 5 weeks out, like it's not a good look, and certainly not a good look when you're supposed to be leading America's team. I really don't know how to feel about this game, because like that Buccaneers offense, I think even against the Panthers, where they put up, was it 30 points, and Evans had like 3 touchdowns and 210 yards or something crazy like that. It was 3 go balls. And apart from that, I don't think the Buccaneers offense was all that good in that game. 3 good plays, and then what's that then? 3 field goals after that. And that's it. If the Cowboys have a better defense than the Panthers, I just want to get that out of the way as well. And I think when you have Micah Parsons running at you all day, Tom Brady will be getting that ball out a lot quicker and not letting those go balls develop. But that, oh man, I still don't know how to feel about this game. I think it's going to be a wild watch, and it's either going to be like 16-3 or it's going to be 37-41. And it's only those 2 scores.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You mentioned, go on.
Sorry, Jake, I was going to say, can I take you all the way back to week 1?
Let's bring us back down memory lane.
Oh, yeah.
Buccaneers faced the Cowboys in week 1. That game was 19-3. Of course, Dak went out in the first quarter. But like that, the Bucs only managed to score 19 points on this Cowboys defense. And now with Dak back, at least starting this game, obviously we don't know if he's going to continue to play the whole game. Obviously, we can't tell.
You didn't get the script yet, no?
No, I haven't got my script yet.
No, you haven't got the
How have you got it?
Oh, well, I get it early. I've got good contacts.
Oh, okay. All right, no bother. But like that, it could be, you know, we've said a few so far in the show that it can be game of the weekend. This, for me, has potential to be one of the worst games of the weekend.
I agree with you there.
Lowest scoring ones.
Yeah. Yeah, like the way Joe, you said it, it's either going to be super low or super high, and there's no in between. I don't think it's going to be a 24-21 game. It's got to be super high or super low. I'm super not impressed with the Bucs offense as a general, but they are extremely boomer and bust. You mentioned 3 huge plays to Mike Evans for 3 touchdowns last week. That's, to me, is the epitome of the Bucs season, is just launching balls on 3rd and 3 or something like that to get an 80-yard touchdown or something mad like that. They are very boomer bust for me. It's just crazy for me.
Yeah, I just like I mentioned at the start of this section, I feel the Cowboys have had their time, sort of, you know, where everyone thinks they're playing well and they're going to win the Super Bowl, all that, blah blah blah. Every team
every year, the start of every year.
Yeah. I think they peaked too soon. I think that Commanders loss was very bad and was very damaging,
demoralizing.
And Dak, Yeah, like that. I think Dak has been allowed to get away with murder this season. Like that, maybe because it is America's team and they can criticize. I don't know, but he's not played well. I don't believe. I didn't actually know he was leading the league in interceptions. It kind of also that helps me come to my judgment that he actually hasn't been that great this year. But the only thing I say, there was a player that led the league in interceptions last year and won a Super Bowl, and that was Matt Stafford. So
let's not put that evil on me. Don't put that evil.
You
on
know,
me.
it's not exactly a stat that's going to
I
kill a team. But
I wasn't putting that out there to boo on the Cowboys' chance of winning the
Yes, you
Super Bowl
were.
because we all know they're not going to do it. I just wanted to shit on the Cowboys even
That's true.
more for a whole different reason.
any chance at all to shit on the Cowboys? That's all it is. For
Oh
you.
yes, I would turn this whole
Gotta respect
podcast into shitting at the Cowboys.
Before we get into predictions, does anybody have anything else to say on this game?
The only one thing I would say about this game is, as much as I'm not impressed with the offense of the Buccaneers, is it's Tom Brady. I mean, you can't count out Tom Brady in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like he has the most experience of any NFL quarterback in the playoffs. Whether or not that makes a huge difference, I just think he could be on the Jets now, and you'd still have to count him in the game.
Yeah, there's definitely something different. It was the same the 2020 when they won the Super Bowl. He started off and wasn't great, wasn't meshing with everyone, and then something clicked the last 6 weeks of the season where all of a sudden they was like, you know what, it's Tom time now, it's Tom's time, and he came through, wasn't great, kept going and going and going and going and going, and then all of a sudden you blink and they're in the Super Bowl and Tom's lifting another Lombardi, and you're just there like,
you blink again,
why?
and he's thrown it across the water to Gronk.
Yeah.
It's interesting that nobody's also mentioning the fact that we're in the playoffs and it's a win and you're out or you're out situation. So, is it Tom Brady's last game in the NFL on Sunday? Is that possible? But it looks like if no one's talking about it, he's sent the feelers out there to people saying that he's going to come back next year.
I think there has been a couple of reports come out saying that he is planning to come back. Now, obviously, we've seen that change and flip-flop over the past season. So I wouldn't be surprised if he retires once or twice before the next season starts. But I reckon he will be back. He's just confident he's coming back.
He's a free agent as well. I have only seen that. He's actually a free agent. So, and I think there was a report linking him with Vegas.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's probably a good
They want to move on from Carr. Josh McDaniels is there as well.
Probably has a lot of use for his avocado water out there as well.
But Brady thrown to Devontae Adams though as well. That doesn't seem like it's fair.
Yeah, but he's going to be 46-year-old Tom Brady or something.
Still,
that's the thing. Like, what do you pay 46-year-old Tom Brady to come to your team?
For 1 year, probably at most 1 year. I don't know. It's got to be $30 million or something at least, or at least lower, but with a higher guarantee maybe.
He's on 25 a year there now at the Bucs. He seems like in his later years he has been that guy to, take the more team friendly offers.
But I think that changed when he went onto the Bucs because did he not sign that contract 3 years ago or something? So I think the cap's gone up since then. And I think the average for a quarterback is now $30 million per year.
Oh,
I didn't want to also say it, but I think
average. I mean, the higher is the 50s to 40s.
Yeah. Well, also don't want to say, but he has lawyers to pay for now as well.
Yeah, and again, like he's not like Giselle was making more money than him when he was in the NFL. So he's on his own now. There's no way he's taking another $23-24 million deal. He's going out free agency saying, "I want that bag," because he's won all his Super Bowls. He doesn't want another one of those. Surely, he's got enough. Pack it in, Tom.
I've already packed it in. I can't do any more.
He can't haunt you anymore.
All right, let's get the predictions for this game before we wrap it up. Joe, first, I'll go to you on this one. Cowboys or Bucks?
I despise both teams. I despise the Cowboys less because they don't have Tom Brady. So I will go with the Cowboys.
I despise the Cowboys more, but I'm sticking with the Cowboys. I think they're just a more complete team than the Buccaneers are.
Okay. I'm going to go for the Buccaneers in this one. I can't look past that experience of Tom Brady in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I can't look past the fact that Dak will probably do something stupid a couple of times in this game. And I can't look past the fact as well that they keep persisting with starting and giving more reps to Zeke Elliott instead of giving it to Tony Pollard, who was clearly the better running back.
I'm okay with that because I don't like Zeke either. So
I know, but like I don't get it. I think it was Jerry Jones says because he's a big guy and Tony Pollard's smaller. Like that matters. Like he's going. If it's a case of winning you the game and losing you the game, do you think it matters on the size of the guy?
not
It's
the
the guy
Jerry
who has the
Jones,
hot
lizard
hand.
man. Biggest
But
conspiracy theory.
anyway, I'm going to go for the Bucks in this game, and that is our Wildcard Weekend preview wrapped up for you, nice in a nice little bow to get you ready for the weekend's action. Jake, Joe, thank you as always for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me. Great being on, talking a load of stuff and hating on Tom Brady.
And the Cowboys.
As
Can't forget
always.
hating on the Cowboys.
And the Cowboys. Before we let you go, Joe, of course, you are part of the Domestic Game Podcast, looking at everything Irish American football related. And of course, we are into 2023, which means we are very close to the new season. So are you looking forward to starting the new season of the podcast now as well?
We'll be getting on soon. We're going to have a kind of winners and losers of 2022. Kind of previewing, maybe a little bit projecting into 2023, who we see, coming through from the depths of what they did last year, or maybe some teams falling. And then I am still pushing as hard as I can for a AFI uniform tier list. So fingers crossed that'll be coming out at some stage before the start of the season.
No problem. I can't wait for it to be totally dominated by how great the Pirates uniforms are and how great the Pirates team is going to be in 2023. That's all we need. That's all I need to know for a full hour and a half.
Sir.
That's all.
For the right money.
For the right money. Of
Is
course.
that right money?
Like
No money.
That's about all we're on at the moment, guys.
So a little bit of
I
money
thought
then.
that it's just a little bit. It's all right. I'll throw you a point or something. But and then on the personal side of things, how is preparations going with the Minotaurs?
Good, yeah. We're back into preseason training now, as I'm sure most clubs are. Feeling pretty good, just knocking the cobwebs off for most people. We're feeling confident. First year in Premier Division, first year in history for us being in top tier. So, yeah, we're excited, man. Can't wait to go out there and actually play some games. It's been too long, and we have another 2 months probably left. So it's just itching and clawing back into March. Can't come soon enough.
I know. Well, that's the terrible thing about it, though, because we are all excited for the NFL season. It's great. Then it ends, and then we have the AFI season, which is great. But for the AFI season to start and be happy with that, the NFL season has to end, which is not great also, because of course we'd like watching. But anyway, again, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. We'll have you on again for sure, especially closer to the start of the AFI season as well. But that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. Make sure you're following us on our social channels at UnderCenterPod on Twitter and Instagram. Under Center Podcast, so search for us there on YouTube. If you are watching us now on YouTube, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to our audio sites too. That is Under Center Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, you will find us there. CENTRE for center. It's not the American spelling. I have to keep reminding you of that, because I've been told a few times that they can't find us because we spell it the right way and not the wrong American way. Like I said, we will be back next week looking back at the playoff games and seeing, talking about the great victories for the Bengals, Seahawks, and Giants. But until next time, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.